Hey, Justin Popovich here from IgniteYourEssence.com. On the other side of the screen, left or right, I don't know which, we have Ronnie Nijmeh. Ronnie, sound test. Yes, I can. Awesome. Excellent. So we're doing right now, this blog post is part of a 100-day challenge I'm doing to do 100 different pieces of motivational style content. But I don't know where you're going to see this. It might be embedded under a different context. But Ronnie and I are good friends, and we both actually are entrepreneurs, business owners in the online marketing world. And we also have a lot of interest and passion in the self-development world as well. And we also do some work in there. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to get Ronnie on to discuss something that's kind of self-development related, but almost it's like a parenting thing too, isn't it, Ronnie? I kind of give him a heads up. I don't really know what we're going to talk about yet, but here I'm going to ask Ronnie a question. I'm going to phrase it as sort of a question slash debate. We're going to talk about it here, and then we're just going to leave it open for discussion, but we think it'll be interesting to you. And the whole idea here is that Ronnie and I are both parents. Ronnie's got, how old is your son, Ronnie? 8 months old, so less than a year old. I've got two boys, 6 and 4, and so I've got a little bit more experience than Ronnie in that department. But it's like, as any parents watching would know, it's like, it's a crapshoot. You're always trying to figure it out as you go along. What's the best thing to do for your kids? And the natural tendency in our world, especially, is you want to give your kids the best. You want to give them all kinds of opportunity. You want to protect them and take care of them. And as I get older in life, and especially as I quit my day job, and I basically just quit cold turkey, a corporate job, and took away all my money and started a business. It was extremely painful and hard. And that was really the first time in my life that I faced real adversity. And as a parent now, it makes me think, are we doing our kids an injustice by giving them too much opportunity or protecting them too much? Because then they're not really facing reality of the real world, which is damn hard, and life can get very, very difficult. There's tragedy, there's lots of things that can go wrong. And if what happens if you don't set your kids up to be able to handle that or to become self-reliant? And so, Ronnie, I'm going to flip it over to you. What's your general thought, like not necessarily parenting approach, but what's your thought in general about building self-reliance? Is it important at an early age to get exposure to hardship? Right. Right. Yeah, and that's as you told that story. I can relate to the bedtime stuff. My sister's actually going through that right now with her kid. But and then fast forward a year or two, I'm not sure what you're going to be doing with your kids. We took our kids to a public daycare. Primarily, well, actually, we wanted to give them to that exposure. A lot of people choose not to, but that was extremely hard, especially for our first son, because of the anxiety of going of separation, right? The separation from parents, and that was it was one of those times where I didn't necessarily have to because I work from home. I could keep him at home and work. Like he wasn't that difficult to watch. We deliberately chose to put him there, and those drop-offs were like heartbreaking for me. I hated doing it, and he's screaming and crying and all that. But again, in hindsight, I'm so glad I did it because it's another little example of things we need to do to kind of push them out of the nest and get it going. and let them kind of become self-reliant in the long run. But I think as time evolves, even as they get older, and now that my oldest son's 6, he's starting to understand more and more about the world. He's even starting to act like he gets the concept of money now, and he wants to buy stuff. And instead of just asking me for money, he's actually thinking creatively, like he's asking if he can sell books that he makes. And it's kind of cool to watch. But it makes me think like, as they get older, I don't necessarily want to give allowances, or I don't necessarily just want to give them things. I want to encourage them to find it on their own. And in some cases, it may mean, like I've seen situations where kids get a little bit older and they get into a battle with their parents, and the parents eventually give in. And then you hear stories about parents who actually kick their kids out of their home. Like one of the motivators that I follow, who's an incredible inspiration, his name's Eric Thomas. His mom kicked him out of the house at 16, and he lived on the streets for like 3 years in Detroit. Okay, this is not a place you want to be living on the streets. It's a very, very difficult place. And he always talks about that's his hugest asset, was he lived on the streets from the time he was 16 to the time he was 18. And not everybody would have recovered from that, fair enough to say, but he did. And now as he develops a business and a huge following, he's an ultra successful speaker and author. That's not an easy world either, but he can handle all of that pressure now. He can handle everything that comes with that and then some. And he's blasting past a lot of his competition, I believe, because of that gift, so to speak, he had of being kicked out of the house. And like most parents aren't going to want to kick their kids out. They're just like, my kid's out of control and I don't know what to do. Well, the unpopular choice in this case was to kick him out, but look what happened to him. And again, not everybody's going to turn it around the way he did, but is that a bad decision to kick your kid out in a situation like that? Yeah. Uh, say it. I don't know it. Yeah. Well, yeah, no, I was gonna say exactly. It also teaches them it's different than, well, if you want money, go out and get a job. That's one thing you could suggest, and there's certainly a lot to be learned from that. But there's a whole other thing. I don't know if you ever saw the TED talk by, I think his name's Cameron Harold, where he talked about teaching our kids to be entrepreneurs. And instead of saying go out and get a job, it's go out and figure out a way to create the money that you want for the things that you're asking for. So you want a new dirt bike or a snowmobile or whatever, if you're a teenage kid, instead of being told, well, you got to get a job and it's going to take you a year to save up to do it, why not say, well, go look at entrepreneurs who create that kind of money in a certain period of time and look at what they're doing and try to figure out that. Like that's a totally different kind of lesson. Plus you're teaching them that there is no glass ceiling, there is no limit, but it's up to you to figure it out. And so if it takes you 5 years, so be it. But at least introduce them to the idea that these things, these really big ideas are possible. It's up to you to figure it out. And that's kind of cool, because I know when I grew up, the general message around my friends and all that is if you needed money, go get a job, which again, I'm not saying that's wrong, but it would be how cool would it be to hear this other message too, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I think to kind of close this conversation is that this could be awesome. I think we could do a number of these to kind of wrap it up. I think my takeaway from this is over time, as my kids get older, my lesson learned is to try to allow my kids to make the mistake, guide them, but allow them to make mistakes, allow themselves to get into trouble or into painful situations, even knowing that they're going down that path, allow it to happen, being there for support, but allow it to happen so that they can, like you said, even in the learning how to sleep phase, develop the coping mechanisms and also the wherewithal to figure out how to create opportunity out of nothing. Something's going wrong, your life is crumbling down. I'm here to support you, to tell you everything's okay, but beyond that, you got to figure this out. To me, I think if I can stick to that general philosophy, I'm pretty comfortable with that. And I think most people would probably agree, but again, we might get some different opinions here based on our conversation. I don't know if you had a final thought to offer as well. I love that. Great closing point. Suffering is good, and doesn't have to you don't have to say it in those words, but portraying that general message, I think, is very, very powerful. Make it okay that things are falling apart right now, and you're just going through it, and you'll get through the other end, and you'll be that much more capable in future endeavors, right? So, thanks, Ronnie. This has been awesome. It's kind of nice to talk to a fellow parent, but also somebody who's interested in these kind of concepts. So, thanks for joining me. Maybe we'll do some more of these. All right, thanks, man.